G'day guys, Happy New Year. Recently I've been shooting with the Canon RF 200 to 800 f6.3 to f9 super telephoto lens. Let's cover off my pros and cons from my first few times shooting with this epic lens. First of all, to the pros. Well look, this lens has got incredible reach from 200mm right out to 800mm. Now that is reach usually confined to much more expensive lenses than what you can pick this one up for. It allows you to stand off from your subject just so much further than, say for instance, something like a 400 or the 100 to 500 or even a 70 to 200. It's a massive advantage on what was previously available for the amateur enthusiast photographer. What I've found so far from shooting is it's incredibly sharp. And I'll throw up some photos here so you can have a look at some of the detail you can pick up with this lens. The zoom function, the fact that it can go from 200 to 800, allows you to start wide, acquire your target, and then punch right in to be able to track and get the shots that you need. So far, from what I've found, it's excellent build quality. Now, it's not designated an L lens, but it is very near to that, and it does feature some weather resistance or weather sealing qualities, such as internal moisture and dust resistance, and furthermore it does have a weather sealed gasket on the mount side. I guess it's comparatively lightweight compared to something like the 400 f5.6, which is very heavy, or other lenses of that nature. And not only that, it won't run you into tens of thousands of dollars. Now I've actually been shooting it on the Canon R7, which means that with the crop factor, it's actually about 320 mils, right out to 1280 mils. Now that is exceptional reach. As I said, from what I've found so far, it's extremely sharp, but not only that, it renders the colors really well into your camera, onto the sensor, makes it really easy to work with the files that you gather from this lens. The autofocus is smooth and fast, right from near subjects to distant subjects. It's absolutely a delight to work with. I am just thoroughly excited about using this lens and seeing what I can gather with it over the coming years. And I think it's going to be a staple in my lens arsenal. Really thrilled. However, there are some cons, and I'll just refer to my notes a little bit further here. Some of the cons, well, the aperture. It is a little bit slow from 6.3 to f9, but the trade-off to that on the pro side is the unbelievable reach. You just simply cannot get that with a lot of amateur or enthusiast lenses at this price point. The thing with the aperture being a little bit slow is you've got to remember that we're talking about a telephoto lens, so the compression comes involved here. You can actually achieve out of focus backgrounds, but it does require a little bit of thought to set up in the field to make sure you're in the best position to clear the background as much as possible. Of course, if your subject is nearer to the lens and the background further away, you're going to achieve that out of focus background. But I have found so far that some of the shots that I've got are a little bit hectic in the background, a little bit distracting, so it's not altogether perfect. But like I say, the trade-off to the con is the pro of the reach. Now another con is that the zoom throw is quite far. Now you can do it in one motion, but what I do find is if I'm starting wide and attempting to acquire the target, zooming into the 800 actually gives a little bit of shake to the camera, and it can be easy to fall off your target. So you do have to be smooth and deliberate when throwing from the wide to the long focal length on this lens. Well, they do say that the image stabilizer in this lens has auto panning detect, but I have found that it's a little bit jumpy. It doesn't necessarily jump into panning mode or detect the panning quite as smoothly as you might expect, but overall it does work. I have found with the image stabilizer when shooting video, it can actually oscillate a little bit of left and right until it settles down and really hones into the shot. But overall, if you give it some time and acquire your focus, it will stabilize and you will get some nice steady shots. Now, another con, and this may be more a function of the camera rather than the lens, but it would be really lovely if this lens had a max focus distance limiter. Sometimes I do find that you acquire your subject and then all of a sudden it will jump to the background, which in some cases can be a long way back from your subject, and it does involve a little bit of a hassle to try and pull it back onto your subject. One thing with the lens barrel extending like this, it could well become the new dust pump, similar to the old Canon EF 100 to 400, which had a bit of a reputation for inhaling dust into the body of the lens. Now, the other day I did have this laying on the grass and it rolled down the bank, and when I was retracting the lens, I did hear quite a bit of crunching. So I had to be very careful to hold it down and make sure I cleared some of the dust that was intruding into the zoom. And it was actually a bit of a killer because it was my only second time shooting with the lens, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, the second time shooting with the lens, and I fucked it. Another thing that I have found is that the flange of the lens actually encroaches on the grip quite a little bit. So you can actually feel it rubbing up against your fingers when you're trying to hold the camera as comfortably as you could do. And it doesn't leave you a lot of space, particularly if you might have big salamis, not necessarily like I've got, but some of you may have some big salamis and have a bit of trouble fitting inside that grip. Just something to think about. Okay, so that's the pros and cons. Look, the main thing is the amazing reach out it's going to give you from 200 to 800. The aperture, yes, it's a little bit slower, but the trade-off, of course, is that reach, being able to punch right out. It's absolutely spectacular. It's something that I almost thought I would never be able to get in an affordable, well, I don't know about affordable, but certainly less expensive than some of the big long lenses which can run into tens of thousands of dollars. This gives a lot of us opportunities to be able to shoot at those longer lengths for less money up front, and that's got to be a good thing, right? Look, like I say, compared to some of the big long lenses, this is comparatively dirt cheap, but there is still a bit of an investment in it, so it would pay to really consider and make sure that the lens is going to be right for you. I personally really love shooting long because it gives you an opportunity to bring images to people that they may not ordinarily see in their day-to-day lives, and it opens you up to a world that you may not necessarily have been able to get to before owning a lens such as this. And for me, the benefit of being able to stand off from the subjects is absolutely unparalleled from what I've experienced so far before this. The longest reach I've had before this was the EF 70 to 200mm. So yeah! One thing, I did see a video where the lens was actually detaching from the R3 without depressing the lens release button, and that is a bit of a concern. But just a tip from me to you is I always tether my lens to the camera body. So regardless of if you're using a lens strap or a camera strap, if the lens should detach, it will remain tethered to the camera. And that's just something that I advise you to think about, actually giving you a little bit of an insurance, a little bit of a backstop in case the lens does inadvertently detach from the camera body. Oh, well, that's it guys, I'm gonna get back to shooting, but thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, let me know down below. Otherwise, please have an awesome 2024, and we're gonna catch you next time. Bye.